Hello again, this is Noah and John. We are from Urban Digs. We're at Talk Manhattan, and we're at Element today.
Element today, talking with Carol Staab.
Carol Staab, thank you for coming.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm really looking forward to do Talking Manhattan.
And you've been following Urban Digs for a long time. I've seen you on my user list for many, many years.
I have, and you are a very important resource for me.
All right, hold on, here's the $20 I was going to give you over here. For
no,
thank you.
No $20 needed. This is just
50.
Not even 50. I would pay even more for your subscription.
You know,
it's the value for me is amazing. I do so much email marketing, and the consumer there, enjoys the reports that I do. I also attracts, business.
Yeah.
So,
and we're going to get into that. We're going to definitely get into that because I want to talk about.
I'm fine just stopping there. Drive home safe, everybody.
Yeah, leave on a high note. But let's just look. You've been doing this a long time.
Long.
Since the early '90s, right?
Since the early '90s.
Okay,
correct.
so you've seen. I mean, look, Manhattan real estate is one of those. You come in here, you think you know it all. Maybe you're a hotshot somewhere else, and you kind of get smacked around a little bit. It's a crazy little market, very nuanced. So you got almost 30 years, right?
Right.
Okay, so that's great. What's going on out there right now? Everyone's confused. What's happening?
That's what is going on out there. It is confusion.
Yeah.
Basically, the sellers are confused and the buyers are confused. And what you have going on is a disconnect between the buyer and the seller. Sellers are actually blocking the market as far as movement. We have movement, but we could have more movement if they would de-anchor from their prices. Mm-hmm. What's happened is we are in a reset mode. Mm-hmm. And the number of transactions has fallen since 2018.
Yeah.
For 6 consecutive quarters, we had a bump up this second quarter.
Right.
But I'll get into that in a moment. Why?
It's temporary.
It's temporary. It's nothing to really get excited about. But what's happened here is that sellers are still anchored to pre-tax, the pre-salt tax prices, and it takes people think, and then buyers think, oh well, we have this, the tax thing going on. Mm-hmm. We have inventory, we have a lot of inventory and so forth, so prices should be falling.
Yeah. Why
aren't they falling so much? Well, because sellers are still anchored to their prices. Yeah. And that's what's really blocking the market. When sellers start getting more on board, they are gradually getting more on board now. So we are seeing more transactions than we saw, in the first quarter of 2019. Right. They're getting on board, and it takes like 2 years. There's a lag time between the reality of the market and for sellers to,
the buyers kind of figure it out quicker.
The buyers figured it out
sellers
very quickly.
And one of the questions I wanted to ask is, you talk about sellers being anchored to sort of the high water mark back in 2015, 2016.
Great term.
Is that something that you're seeing that's universal to every seller, or are there certain segments on the sell side that are more resistant to lowering prices than others?
That's an interesting question. I think you see it on... sometimes I think you see it more with sellers that are in like the 2 million to 4 million before you get to that. Right before the luxury benchmark, you see them anchored more than you do a luxury seller in general. I think that's because maybe the luxury seller, this isn't his or her first property. Maybe they have multiple properties, and so they have a different mindset and a business mindset. So they're more willing to get it.
That's a very interesting
to de-anchor.
Point. That's a very interesting point. So like the 2 to 4 million, that mid-range type of, it's not the low end, it's not the luxury sector, but the type of buyer is probably someone that's worked up from the 1 million to 2 million. Now they can afford a $3 million
property is probably a much larger proportion.
And now they have a harder
portfolio.
time coming to terms with the fact that this thing might not be worth what it was worth pre-pol. And I love the fact that you said they're anchored. They're anchored. That sellers need to de-anchor because to pre-policy markets. I mean, it's just a great way of saying it. I mean, I love it. What about the buyers? I mean, what are they thinking?
The buyers, it's very interesting. It's like it's like there's blood in the water.
Yeah, but
You
there's
know?
not though. I mean, it's
There's
not like 2008.
But their mindset, it's almost like what we were talking about, the sellers being anchored and the buyers are way over here like, whoa, this is my time.
Right.
I can ask for everything.
And they are.
And they are. And depending on the motivation of the seller or the developer, they're getting more than they ever did.
Yeah. So
Okay.
here's my question. So you got a couple of, I talked to a lot of agents out there, and you got one train of thought, which I kind of tend to agree with, which is your side, which is the sellers need to kind of come to grips and de-anchor. Then you got that other side of the coin where they're looking at the buyers and they're on this side of the equation.
Right.
So like just what you're saying is there's a disconnect, right?
That's
Me and
correct.
John like to say there's a wide spread between bid and ask right now, and the sellers are up here and the buyers are up here, and there's
it's a lot of
there's-
work trying to
get
put
these
it
two
together.
But,
Right.
but then you've got a school of thought of agents and brokers out there and managers that think that maybe the buyer brokers are not educating their clients on what's going on.
You know, people think when, like 2008, when the market falls, it's linear and it keeps falling forever.
Yeah.
And people, like in 2014 and 15, when we had the peak
Yeah.
market, they thought it was going up forever. That's
Yeah.
why, and we have these sellers that are still de-anchored because they feel that this is the price.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, the problem is a lot of sellers tend to look in their building. I don't know many sellers that go outside the building and say, here's an apartment with better views, better renovation, higher floor. I'm like, oh God, they're $2 million. I should be worth that. But they do look in their building. And in buildings in Manhattan real estate, there's not a lot of volume in a lot of cases,
Right.
right?
Especially if you're talking Upper East Side pre-war.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Right.
not like you have a building that has 50 units selling every single year,
Right.
and there's liquidity, and you can see transparency what the market's currently offering.
That's right.
It doesn't happen that way.
That's
It's
right.
an
And we-
illiquid market.
And we both know that, you know, any kind of comparables that happened before 2018 don't relate to this
without a
market
time
at all.
adjustment. And I mean,
Yeah.
and those sellers now, they're in the building, and you know what? They got their 15A,
Right.
And they're looking, hey, 13A sold in 2017.
Yeah.
2016.
Right,
And
right.
but that's what they're doing. And now they're going back to 2016, 2017. We just had this conversation at one of our meetings. We did a class, and she's like, yeah, you know, she looked at the sale from a couple
Right.
years ago, and we're trying to explain. It's like, did you show them this chart? We were showing them medium listing discount. I'm actually going to go to it right now in Urban Digs, which in 2015, sellers were getting 99% of their asking price.
Right.
In 2016, they were getting 97% of their asking
But let's
price.
explain what that means. So a median listing discount of 1% or 0.5% means that a vast majority of people, I mean, maybe not a vast majority, but at least half are getting ask or over ask.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
that's phenomenal.
That was a time where, you know, we had low inventory, we had tons of multiple
Yeah.
bids, and a lot of properties were going, you know, over ask.
And that's what they need to understand, is they need to understand that, yeah, it's great to go stay in the building. It's great to look at something
Right.
similar. It's great to look at 13A versus your apartment at 15A because you're keeping everything consistent. It's not so great to just assume that this market's exactly the same.
Do you know what I do to try to prevent that from happening when I'm talking to a prospective client? Is I use your chart with the here's what you're building, you know, comparable buildings. Here's how
The
you're
compare building.
The
Yeah, the
compare
compare building
building.
tool. Yeah.
That is so eye opening.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. And I use as much data as possible to educate the prospective client, you know, as to where we are in the market and, you know, where you should be priced.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're not priced correctly, if the price is not compelling, you're not.
Because you know what,
selling.
Carol, in Manhattan, every building is its own market.
Yes, it's its own micro market.
Every single building.
Every
and
building.
if you, some people just, they hear it, but they don't quite
And
get it.
you know,
you know?
Some, like Jonathan Miller, who's top appraiser, he's a New York appraiser. He gets that. He knows.
Yeah.
But do you remember the time where banks were so cheap that they were using outside appraisers?
Yeah.
They come in from Westchester, Long Island. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And as a broker, an experienced broker, I would be there and I would educate them so that they didn't.
Because they pull comps from completely unrelated
Oh,
buildings.
Sometimes
my
they would
gosh.
ask me. They would ask me, "Hey, you got any comps you can give me for this?"
Right. Oh, well, not only that, but they don't understand that. Let's say
Yeah.
my building, I'm 1049 Fifth Avenue, and there is an inexpensive post-war building next door, 1045, and then there's the 1040, which
Right.
is where Jackie and Nassus lived.
Yeah.
Right. That 1045, if you're going to use that, the price per square is so much lower.
Of
That's
course.
not a
Right.
comparable building.
Yeah.
So that'll skew.
I know.
You
Yeah.
know, the appraisal.
That's what people need to
And that's another
understand.
question I had is when you approach a seller. So every building is its own market. And I also find that residents of their buildings are their own experts.
Oh yes.
And they. So I'm
yeah.
curious, like if you
Yes.
approach a seller in a building that you haven't lived in or you haven't done that, how do you go about making sure that when you're looking at buildings to compare to, that you've got a good set of data?
I come to you guys. I use the building compare, and you know, it's not called urban digs for no reason. You can dig deeply into the data,
Yeah.
and if you educate them enough, they have to. Unless they just don't want to see.
Yeah.
And be
Well, sometimes they
rational.
don't.
And
Sometimes they have
don't.
that sheet over
I
their head.
I had something that I lost recently at 4078th Street. The ex-client is on broker number 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's you?
No, I was broker number 2.
Oh, okay.
I thought broker number 2 would be it. I do a lot of expired listings, by the way. I call myself the cleanup broker, you know.
We've been hearing anecdotally that it's a great time to be broker number 2. In this
At least number 2.
Yeah.
So this particular client, you know, I got a 2-2. She's asking 2475. I said, you're not going to get 24. She wouldn't listen to me. She said, it's your marketing. And I'm a big believer in, and I do great marketing. I actually enhanced her apartment a great deal, and I did a video. And she has Cheryl Wagner sinks, gold sinks. I mean, it's a unique taste. And the third broker now actually has photos of the baths and everything, and has it for just slightly under 2495. This is not going anywhere.
And it's the price. I mean, look, it's the price. The market knows it's available.
Right.
The market's seeing it. It's not
Right.
like it's being withheld anywhere.
Right.
When they say marketing problem, I think is it not reaching somebody?
Right. Well, you know, typically we say if something's not moving, it's either a price problem or a product problem or a market problem. There is
Right.
a bit of a market problem.
There is
They
a
have a
market
price
problem.
problem. But it's interesting when we talk about product problems. Usually, we're talking about first floor studio units, no lights, small,
Unrenovated.
cramped, like unrenovated.
Right.
But sometimes you can have a product problem where something is just done so over the top
That's
nicely
correct.
that the people who walk in say, "Oh my gosh, it's gold here, gold there."
Well,
I'm going to have to gut this.
that's correct. It's renovated, not recently, but it's in very good condition. However, it's a very unique taste. I actually called the apartment. I call my apartments by names. I called it Versace.
The apartment's called Versace.
That's what I call it. You know, it's actually at the Charles House across from the Mark Hotel.
Right.
But Versace, because of all the gold sinks, she has
Right.
Grecian columns, and you know, so
Yeah.
it's a rip out, and it's probably at least $500,000 or more renovations.
And those are
So-
tough.
And those are
tough right now.
Yeah.
Listen, so I'm looking at median listing discounts, what we were talking about before, okay? And just look, so this is going back to the topic, is that you got these sellers that are anchored,
Right.
right? And
Right.
again, and we're talking about this, and we hear it in the street, is that the seller says, well, this guy got this for 2016. Go to this chart, and you can see, all right, in 2016, sellers were getting 97.5% of their asking
Right.
price. They were going down 2% to get a deal, 2%.
Right.
Now they have to go down. I mean, just look at the numbers, and it's just constantly going up.
What is the last number you have?
7.4.
Yeah, that's what we had actually in the second quarter report.
Yeah,
You know,
it's 7.4. We're all using the same data. We clean it
Yeah, yeah,
differently,
yeah.
and I mean,
Right.
this is lagging. I mean, for all we
Right.
know, we could be at 8 or 8.5.
But the way to look at it is, okay, so that's the median, but a lot of people are getting better than 7.4. Okay.
Some
fine,
people are getting
priced it right,
under.
but some people are getting a lot worse
of course,
than 7.4.
Right.
yeah, it's so if it's 7.4, I mean, it's probably somewhere between 5
But
and 10.
then, of course, it's based on how they're pricing.
Of course,
Exactly.
yeah.
It's a function
I mean,
of how people are pricing.
Right. The listing discount from original ask.
Yes.
You know, if it's priced aspirationally, you know, then that discount's going to be much steeper if the seller gets real.
Yeah,
You know,
and-
then it's
and we
someone
have
that
those, yeah.
that is pricing, you know, at fair market value.
See, I like to look at this more like how much are sellers going down to get a deal these days,
Yeah.
like a negotiability thing. But you're right. I mean, there's a couple ways to look at this thing, and the way I like to think of it as sellers, you got to think about going down 7.5%. Like just expect a negotiation of around 7.5%. So some sellers may interpret that. All right, so let's just put some real numbers onto this, right? So let's say it's $1 million property,
Right.
And let's say in reality it's worth $930, right? We're saying so they're
Right.
asking $1 million and they're getting $925
Right.
is what this is saying. Do you price at $1 million? Do you price
No,
at $1
we
million
don't.
and get that 925, or do you price at 930 or 925 and potentially get a few people in there and get 940 and a bit? You know what I'm saying? Like there
Right.
are bidding wars happen. They're happening just one at a time.
So I just had a case of this. You know, I deal. 85% of my business is marketing property. So I had a buyer was referred to me, and this was over Brooklyn and Fort Greene, a townhouse. And I was so surprised. We're talking about markets. You know, each market is different, and I was really surprised. I took an Uber over there to see the house. They already saw the house at an open house. There was an open house there, 6 o'clock in the evening, and pouring rain.
Mm-hmm.
And I opened the door, and I couldn't believe there must be a half a dozen or more buyers in there.
Yeah.
You know, here at open houses, you have to give away champagne or,
Yeah.
or you know, free, free.
Let me guess, it was priced correctly.
Was it? Oh, there's just what we were just talking about. You know, they priced they first had it priced a little higher. They had it priced at 4 or 5 something. So the seller was on board. They actually priced it a little bit below the value, and they priced it at 3.9, under 4. And oh my God, all these people! My buyers came in at 3.6. I said, look, I think you're going to have to come to full ask on this.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't feel comfortable doing that. And then they got excited. They were going to do it, and then they didn't pull the trigger. Fast forward, it did go for a full asking price. So this is a great strategy, especially in this market, if you can convince the seller to price it slightly below. But when you're talking about the $1 million apartment, it's ideally, if it's going to go in the 9s, you're best to get it under $1 million anyway.
Yes.
Because of the psychology of the
Just have
pricing,
people search
and
search,
also the you're avoiding the mansion tax because
Yeah.
it's below $1 million.
That's true, and that's changed also. So let me. We're getting down to the final things
Okay.
here. We like to end things on final thoughts, right? Buyers,
Yeah.
sellers, agents. Those are the kind of people that are listening to this. So, if you're a buyer out there, what kind of advice would you tell this generic buyer?
If I were a buyer out there, I wish I had a ton of cash myself because I would go out and buy some of these condominiums that are priced so well and put tenants in them, you know, and have them as an investor units. But I'm telling buyers, look, this isn't going to last forever. And we don't know, it's the market as far as finding the bottom, it's not a V.
Yeah.
And there's such a great opportunity out there. Inventory is the highest it's been in 7 years.
Yeah, it's high.
So there's a lot of choices. And if you wait, are you going to get what you want?
Right.
And we think the market's going to decline a little further, but we don't think that there's such volatility that
that a crash is imminent
it's going
or
to
anything.
crash and
Yeah.
you're going to pick up places for fire sale prices.
No,
you know.
we agree. We think that we're the cycle has happened, like the hit has happened, and it's just a matter. We think we're bouncing along the bottom right now, and it might be a little choppy, and it might show
right.
little year-over-year increases.
I think if you're a buyer, you can find very well located properties at very good prices.
Absolutely. There's a new development building near a bread and butter building where 360 East 88th at Layton House. I've sold like 5 apartments. Right next door is 389 East 89, and I was just over there. It's a retrofitted building, so new development. They have 10 apartments left, and they are offering to pay 3 years in common charges.
This is why I love this podcast. Like this information, unless you're in there and you're seeing it and you're getting it. This is. Hey, listen, if anyone's out there that's looking in that area, man, we like the new development deals and the concessions that the developers are offering to move these properties. So that's great stuff. What about sellers?
What about sellers? De-anchor. Look.
We should have like an applause background.
There we go. Sellers, if you don't need to sell, then just take it off the market.
Right.
If you need to sell, then you must de-anchor from prices that were 2015 and 2016, and you have to be realistic. You need to price at market value. It's not going to move.
Yeah.
And you're going to end up, if you do these price drips, when you do start dripping little price reductions, you're going to end up getting less than you would if you price it correctly in the first place. It's historically been proven.
This all the time.
We have a chart for that.
Yeah, but
it's a beautiful chart. We're missing one of the legends. We have to put it back.
Just because the data proves something doesn't mean it's so.
But it's a great chart. It's a pie chart. It basically breaks up all the sales by how long was on the market and the median listing discount.
So it shows,
and it shows you if you're on the market less than 30 days, you're getting what, like a 1.5% listing discount. So it says if you're at the market, you're going to move. If you're on the market for more than 120 days, I think it is, it's
4
like
months.
a 20+% discount. So
there's a correlation between like.
I would definitely look at that chart. Where is that located?
It's in the chart room, and it's called discounted days on market.
Okay.
A lot of people don't get it because it's in the bottom right
probably
here.
This is one of those charts that's better to look at the overall
It's like
view.
it's not the easiest chart to interpret.
Right.
But it's.
I'm definitely going to look at it because that has been, over years and years, that's been a proven fact that people who overprice and they start having these listing discounts, multiple listing discounts, that they end up getting less than what they would have if they priced it correctly. And we're talking about in any market, not just
because if you price it correctly, you're going to get the buyers who are interested in that place, and you're going to get them all in the same place at the same time.
So just to tell you the statistics, so people can hear some actual statistics. For those deals that closed and had a days on market of under 30 days, so these are deals that went to contract in the first 4 weeks,
this is all Manhattan,
which let's just assume they were priced correctly. This is Manhattan. Let's just put Manhattan now. They got basically close to 100% of their asking price. All right, 0% median listing discount. For those properties that went to contract 4 to 8 weeks after listing, they had to go down to 2.5%. For those people that went into contract 61 to 90 days, had to go down 4.6%. And I can't see the other ones because I got this little box here. If it was 91 to 120, it's down 7%, just under 7%, and I believe over 120 days was 12%. 12%. So there's a correlation between pricing correctly.
Correlation, and now buyers, because we have such transparency, with them going to Street Easy, is the first thing they come in and they're seeing your listing is, how many days has this been on the market? It's like one of the first questions out of their mouth.
Because before they used to hide that information. They used, if something was on the market for 6 months for $2 million and then it was off, they never knew that before.
Right.
Sellers, we talked about agents. Finally, we got agents out there, especially younger agents that are trying to up their game. They're like, "What the hell's going on in this Manhattan real estate market? Why is it so hard to do business?" What would you tell these people?
I would tell them it is very hard. It's so competitive. I would tell them to possibly go and park themselves in a team. And get some more education and have the support of a very successful team leader. That's what I would do if I were in that position, because it is extremely challenging.
And I think it's fantastic advice. If you're an agent that's struggling and you kind of need to step it up again and you need to up your game, I would find a good team that you can maybe sell yourself to, even if that means that you're running open houses and you're trying to recycle all those buyer clients. Like, find a niche, find something that works. Just find something where you got business going on, right? Like, you should be having 5-10 buyers. Are you going to die over here, or what's going on? All right. We might have to pause this whole podcast and help John walk up. All right. This may just be Noah Rosenblatt of Urban Digs going forward.
here.
Carol Staab, thank you so much. We're at Element. This is Noah and Coughing John. We're from Urban Digs. We're talking Manhattan.